Hey Billy, I saw your video. I wanted to respond a little bit about the changes, that I've seen. I'm a little older than you. I'm 47, and I grew up in a small town in Mississippi, Brookhaven, if you've ever heard of it. And I remember being a small child going to see my grandmother on the train, and at the train station, there's actually two train stations, and I remember asking my mom, why are all the black people in this building over here and all the white people are in that building over there? And, my mom just said, well, they have their own things, and I took it at face value, didn't think a lot about it. I guess Martin Luther King was studying it pretty good about that time. But, things have changed. It was a lot of hard times back then, although it just went right over my head, I remember when I was in about the 6th grade, they integrated schools, and I really didn't think that was a big deal. As a matter of fact, I kind of got my butt kicked one time for some glib comment I made because, it was upsetting to all the adults, but I guess to us kids it wasn't that big of a deal. We were taught to respect all adults, whether they were black, white, or purple, whether they were family or not. Back then you could, if an adult told you to do something, you did it, and you said yes ma'am and yes sir and all that stuff. I remember getting in trouble with my dad, for something I did, and I go, Dad, how'd you know I did that? And little bird told me. Well, simple fact is that any adult had input on any kid back then. I mean, if you did something wrong, and your parents were going to find out, it seemed like. So you always had to be careful what you were doing. I remember back when, if a girl got pregnant, she went away to some home somewhere to visit her aunt, yeah, not aunt, they say aunt up here. But anyway, and then she came back without the baby. And that baby was alive and well somewhere, If you were going to have an abortion, you needed a coat hanger. And I guess that's really not wanting to have a baby. But, I guess that's a whole other argument. We don't want to argue about that. I remember when there was no KFC, and when KFC came to town, that was like the first fast food chain. I was kind of jealous of one of my friends because they got to eat out at Kentucky Fried Chicken every week. And yes, it was called Kentucky Fried Chicken. It wasn't KFC. We ate there some, but not every week. And it was good, and there wasn't any crispy chicken back then. Talking about the yes ma'am thing, I was taught to say yes ma'am and yes sir and respect the elders, and I taught my kids the same thing. We moved up here to Omaha, and I had to go down to the school because my oldest boy was in trouble. And the reason why he was in trouble was because he actually said yes ma'am to a teacher, and she thought he was being a smart aleck. And we had to march down there and let them know that, well, that's how they're raised, and get used to it, because they will say yes ma'am and no ma'am to adults. And they do that to this day, just like I do, and I'm sure you do too, Billy. Computers. My first computer back in the early 80s was like some Texas Instrument keyboard thingy, and it came with a book on how to write a program for it because there wasn't anything. It wasn't even DOS. It was some kind of basic thing. They call it basic something. And I wrote a program, and it took me a long time to do my inventory at work, beginning plus received minus ending equals, and then total down at the bottom. And the first time I ran that thing, I put in all that data and everything, and it hooked up to a little black and white TV, no printer, and The first time I did that and punched the calculate button, it took it like 3 hours to figure something out that I could have done on a calculator in about an hour. Needless to say, that thing hit the closet pretty fast after that. But it was, interesting, and actually I was kind of proud that I actually made it work. But of use, no. The first experience I had with the internet was something called Videotel, and it was like a little monitor box, and the keyboard actually folded down in front of it. And it wasn't really an internet, it was their little network of people, and it had, a black screen with white text, and there were some very simple games, and you could chat, and boy, it really torqued me off because they didn't tell me that all this was long distance, and I probably ran up a $400-500 phone bill before I knew that. So needless to say, that thing, yeah, I got rid of that thing pretty quick too. But there's been a lot of changes since I was a kid, and some of them are for the better and some of them aren't. It's a totally different world we live in today. But I just wanted to share that with you. And my mother-in-law lives with us, and she was telling me yesterday about how they had a gasoline-powered washing machine that sat out in the yard when she was a kid, and you actually kick-started it like a motorcycle. She could really probably enlighten us all with a lot of her stories, but anyway, just thought I'd share that. Thanks.